Hello everyone, my name is Rosado Fuentes, and today I will give my anthropology midterm presentation on my study project titled Liminal Residents, International Students, and Over-Tourism Perceptions in Kyoto. So the setting of where I'm going to conduct my research is Kyoto, Japan, which is one of the world's most visited cities. And it is actually fairly important for this research because it is one of the foremost cities where people could experience what is called quote unquote over tourism. So my fieldwork focuses on a specific and overlooked group, which is international students living in a residence hall in Japan. Now, they're not tourists since they pay rent, they take the local bus, they shop around the neighborhood, and they are usually in Japan for more than what a normal tourist would be. They also occupy this in-between space or liminal space in which they are not tourists, but they are not a formal resident as per se. And this is what makes them interesting to study. Also, more than 300,000 of them live in Japan, but there is barely any literature regarding to over tourism and international students. So, another reason in which I want to study over tourism regarding international students is because I am an international student. And so this is fairly personal to me. And I also have a fairly unique advantage in which I can also study fellow international students on how they identify themselves regarding other tourists or other foreigners. Now, the reader or the watcher may ask themselves, why should I care about this? Well, Japan has a well documented social tendency to draw sharp lines between insiders and outsiders, the Gaikokujin and the Nihonjin dichotomy. So, international students are labeled as outsiders from the moment they arrive. But over time, some of them start to feel that they belong, they learn the language, they adopt local habits like eating local food, or they make Japanese friends. And my project asks whether if when this happens, does the international students' identity or reactions toward over tourism or other tourists change? So quickly, I want to state my academic sources as of now for this project. My first and most important one, because it gives me my framework, is the social identity theory of intergroup behavior, which I'm going to talk a little bit later on. My second one is over tourism overused by Cohen's, Posma, and Papp. It basically gives me also that framework for how we should treat over tourism in an academic sense, in a more academic sense, as to say. My third paper is a study on the causes and effects of stressful situations in tourism for Japanese people, which gives me that benchmark for me to ask if the international student identifies themselves more with Japanese people, would they display similar behaviors as they do in this paper? And finally, intracultural and intercultural contact orientation of international students in Japan, uncertainty management by cultural identification, is basically a follow-up from the Tatchell and Turner paper, but basically gives that international student this, especially for Japan. So for my theoretical approach, the core theoretical argument is this. According to Tatchell and Turner, when someone strongly identifies with a group, they begin to see other groups as outgroups and feel threatened when these outgroups disrupt the shared space. My second one is over tourism, and Coes and colleagues tells us that over tourism is fundamentally about different groups of city users competing for the same space, and that perception matters more than actual visitor counts. So, reading the different analytical frameworks and the different sources, I came up with my research question, which is how do international students in Kyoto perceive and respond to over tourism, and does the identification with Japanese culture and norms affect this experience? Finally, for my methods, I'm conducting fieldwork in an international student residence hall, as I mentioned previously. The main approach is participant observation. So being present in shared spaces, observing how students talk about the city, how they move through it, what they do, and what frustrates them. I'm also going to conduct informal conversations and semi-structured interviews where they're going to be semi-structured to allow me to change depending on the context and what the person has lived through. And finally, I'm going to use the academic readings and use documentary analysis on those academic readings to finalize and have that concrete research question answered.